gathered here today to celebrate Gregory Young's life. And we gather to give God thanks for it, because in so many ways Gregory was a blessing to so many people. So we acknowledge that all those blessings that we received through him came to us from God, because it was God who created him, and it was God who called him home at the end of his life. Throughout his life, his family were very important to him, but also his musical talent was something that he greatly valued. Both Gregory and his wife Cecilia were blessed with a tremendous ability in music, and that's something that they highly valued and developed, and that's something that they shared generously and joyfully with a great many people, including many of you. So throughout his life, for Gregory, music was something that he saw as a gift to be shared. He wasn't interested in making a lot of money from his music. He was much more interested in sharing the gift that would bring joy to other people, no matter who crossed his path. If he thought that they could benefit from the blessing of music in their life, he was very happy to share his gift with them. It was more than just an ability in music. It was a passion for it, an enthusiasm. It was like his vocation to share music and bring joy to whoever wanted to enter into that joy. Throughout his long life, Gregory, through his commitment to music, his generous willingness to share that talent in music, he would have come to understand, of course, that music is a universal language. It's a language that communicates with people across all sorts of different boundaries. We don't need to be able to speak English or Cantonese or Mandarin when we have music, because music is a universal language. We don't need music, we don't need language when we can have music to communicate across generations, because music is one of those languages that can communicate with people across all sorts of boundaries, generations, and cultural divides. Gregory would have understood as well that music is the language of the soul. It expresses joy and love. It also expresses our longings, our hopes, our dreams. There's so much that we cannot express in language that music can capture and convey. And Gregory would have understood that throughout his life. And no doubt that was why he highly valued his gift of music, because he could find in it a way to relate to people, a way to build friendships with people, a way to build bonds very deep that connects people at soul to soul. And because music is the language of the soul, somewhere there in the midst of it all, I'm sure he came to realize that music is also the language of mystery, the language of the divine, the language that in our deepest realm puts us in touch with God. Gregory's wife, Cecilia, was a devout Catholic, and one of her greatest hopes was that one day Gregory would also come to believe in God, and that he would come to accept Jesus as his Savior. A few weeks before he went home to meet God, Gregory did accept baptism. Cecilia's dream for him, her prayers from heaven were answered, and he was baptized at the beginning of June. And according to his daughter Keiko, that was a day of quite rejoicing for him. Rejoicing because, like the lost lamb in today's gospel story, he had finally been found by God. And rejoicing that even though it took all those years, eventually being found was all the sweeter. Rejoicing also, I'm sure, in the hope of being reunited with his beloved wife Cecilia. I'm sure at that stage he knew that he was on the final stage of life's journey, and he knew how important how Catholic faith was to Cecilia. And I'm sure he felt, if I too am baptized, I can be reunited with her in God's kingdom. And that also must have been a source of rejoicing for him. But also I'm sure somewhere on that day and in the final weeks of his life, I'm sure he came to realize that music is indeed the language of the soul, the language of love, the divine language, the language that puts us in communication with people at a very deep level, and in that very deep level also puts us in contact with God. I'm sure on the day of his baptism, Gregory understood what Johann Sebastian Bach says, "I play the notes as they are written, but it is God who makes the music." No matter how talented we are, no matter how committed we are, we realize that it's all a gift. That if we hadn't got this gift, if we hadn't been blessed with a particular talent, no matter how much effort we made, we would not be able to enjoy that talent or that gift. It's all a gift. And I'm sure that's what Gregory realized also as he came towards the end of his life and looked back on a life that was so richly blessed. Today, as we celebrate Gregory's life, we can imagine him and Cecilia rejoicing in God's presence. There are many places throughout the Bible and a lot of Christian art that depicts heaven as a place where there is beautiful music. So if it is such a place, I can imagine that Gregory and Cecilia must feel quite at home there, because I'm sure the music of heaven is much more amazing than anything they experienced here on earth. Incredible instruments, sweet melodies, magnificent symphonies. C.S. Lewis says that the music we have here on earth, he said, is just an echo of the eternal tune that goes on in heaven. We just hear the echoes here. And that when we pass through the door of death, we will come to experience the real symphony that's going on in heaven. Everything that's going on here that we count as music is but a prelude of an overture to the great symphony that's going on. The great symphony that God has orchestrated, in which everyone has a part, in which all of life and the whole universe is somehow synchronized in joy and love and peace to bring about the great bliss of heaven.